Hi there, can you spell the word master? Of course you can, right? In this video, having an idea about what this word means is a good thing. However, if you don't know anything about what this word means, you can check one of these definitions and try to get an understanding of what it means. The second definition is more practical in this lesson because we'll be talking about a unique gland found in the body that's able to control other parts of the body. Hence, it's given the name master gland. This is Z Online School. In this video, you and I are going to be looking at a complete guide to the pituitary gland. We're going to do this in a systematic way. By the end of this video, you should be able to know what is the pituitary gland, the names of the hormones that are secreted by the pituitary gland, the functions of the pituitary gland hormones, and at the end of this video, we've got bonus tips for you. So make sure you watch this video till the end to get the maximum value out of it. We are going to start with defining the pituitary gland. What you notice about the definition of the pituitary gland is just that we are describing the location of the pituitary gland. It's an endocrine gland, always mention that, and it's found at the base of the brain. You can also sometimes add this last part where we're talking about it being attached to the hypothalamus. Now, this definition can be thought of graphically, meaning we think of it in the picture form. So we have our head, let's say you are facing the left of this screen. Your brain will be positioned in such a manner. The pituitary gland, we said, is an endocrine gland found at the base of the brain attached to the hypothalamus. So if you know the hypothalamus, it's easy for you to know where the pituitary gland is. If you know where your brain is and you can identify the base, well and good, you know where the pituitary gland is found. This is not the base of the brain. We take this part here as the base of the brain. And so if we look around this part here, we are supposed to see the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is this purple structure in this diagram. By the end of this video, you understand why this small structure here is called the master gland. Let's talk about the structure of the pituitary gland before we go into naming the hormones that are produced by this gland. We have our diagram that we looked at previously. So the pituitary is that purple structure. But if we were to zoom in into this, we could have a structure that looks like this. This part here, it's known as the hypothalamus. It's the part in control of the pituitary gland. So right now you're asking yourself, but we said this is the master gland. Yes, the pituitary gland is the gland that is known to directly send hormones into the blood circulatory system and then they travel to their target organs. The hypothalamus is just that part of the brain in charge of the pituitary gland. This is the whole pituitary, but it's in two parts. What you understand is it's got a back side, which is known as the posterior pituitary. Obviously, this prefix post means after. Then we have the anterior pituitary, which is in the front part. As you can see, this is the front of the head, this is the back of the head. The posterior is found at the back and the anterior is found at the front. Since we have two parts in the pituitary gland, we're going to look at the hormones produced by the anterior and the posterior pituitary. We have 6 hormones. These here are the abbreviations, and very soon we're going to look at what these abbreviations mean. If you've watched the video about the introduction to the endocrine system, obviously you know all the hormones that are secreted by the pituitary gland. The first here is Adrenocorticotrophic hormone, Luteinizing hormone, growth hormone, Prolactin, Thyroid stimulating hormone, and Follicle stimulating hormone. By the end of this video, you know what these hormones do and their importance in the body. Now, let's talk about the hormones that are secreted by the posterior pituitary gland. There are just 2 hormones. The first is antidiuretic hormone, ADH. If you've watched the video about excretion or the video that talks about the kidney function, you know a bit about ADH. Then we have oxytocin. These 2 hormones are produced by the posterior pituitary. With it said and done, now let's talk about the functions of each of these hormones. As you can see, we have antidiuretic hormone. Its function is to stimulate the reabsorption of water in the kidney nephrons. So when the body has low water levels, the hormone AG8 is secreted by the pituitary glands, then it causes more water to be retained into the body. Now, how does the antidiuretic hormone get released into the blood system? First, the hypothalamus sends down a signal to the posterior pituitary gland, then the ADH starts being secreted into the blood circulatory system, and then when that ADH reaches the kidney nephron tubules, it affects them in a fashion that they start reabsorbing water into the body. The next hormone we'll be looking at is oxytocin. As you can see, we've started looking at the hormones secreted by the pituitary gland before we go to the anterior pituitary gland. Oxytocin is known to stimulate two things: the contractions of the uterus, which are sometimes referred to as uterine contractions, and the ejection of milk in women. What happens is the hypothalamus sends down a signal to the post-pituitary, and then the post-pituitary causes the diffusion of oxytocin into the blood circulatory system, and when it reaches the uterus muscles, it starts causing uterus muscle contraction. These contractions obviously will be very important during childbirth. They won't cause easy childbirth, but we can say they will cause a smoother childbirth. When we talk about milk ejection, what happens is the hypothalamus sends down a signal to the post-pituitary, and then the post-pituitary secretes oxytocin, which, if diffuses into the blood and then reaches the mammary glands, milk will begin to be ejected. Now we begin talking about the hormones that are secreted from the anterior pituitary gland. The first here is luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone has some functions that are many: stimulation of the ovulation process in women and the stimulation of production of the female hormones estrogen and progesterone. In males, luteinizing hormone will be stimulating the production of testosterone. What you notice about luteinizing hormone is that it is targeted for the testes in males and the ovaries in the females. So sometimes it will be referred as a hormone targeting the gonads. In females, the hypothalamus will cause a special hormone to go to the anterior pituitary through a special blood system and then cause the secretion of luteinizing hormone, which will later diffuse into the blood system, and then when it reaches the ovaries, it can cause ovulation and the production of estrogen and progesterone. You notice that the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary function in a different manner. For the posterior pituitary, we had a signal being sent down to the posterior pituitary and then causing the secretion of a hormone. For the anterior pituitary, what happens is that a special hormone from the hypothalamus, which is produced by the hypothalamus, travels through a special blood system, which you obviously learn when you go into deeper biology. Then when that hormone reaches the anterior pituitary, it causes LH to be secreted. And then when that LH is secreted, it diffuses into the blood system, and when it reaches the ovaries, it causes these processes in women. In males, the hypothalamus will cause particular hormone to travel through a special blood system to the anterior pituitary, which then will interpret that into the secretion of luteinizing hormone. And then when that luteinizing hormone travels through the blood system and reaches the testes, it's going to stimulate the production of testosterone. The next hormone is thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone is easy to remember because from the name we can easily map it to the function. It stimulates the production of thyroxine in the thyroid glands, or simply it stimulates the thyroid glands to perform their function. This hormone is also secreted by the anterior pituitary. So we have the hypothalamus sending down a special hormone through a special blood system, and then when that hormone reaches the anterior pituitary, it causes the anterior pituitary to secrete thyroid stimulating hormone. Then when thyroid stimulating hormone travels through the blood circulatory system and reaches the thyroid glands, it causes the thyroid glands to secrete thyroxine. The next hormone is adrenocorticotrophic hormone. This hormone stimulates the adrenal gland to perform its function. Specifically, to be stimulating the adrenal cortex to secrete hormones, for example, cortisol, which is part of the corticosteroids. The hypothalamus again will cause a special kind of hormone to travel down through a special kind of blood system into the anterior pituitary. Then the anterior pituitary is going to secrete this hormone known as adrenocorticotrophic hormone. Obviously the name is long, but yes, you just need to bear with biology. You need to know this full name. This hormone then will be destined for the adrenal glands, where it's going to cause the adrenal glands, specifically the adrenal cortex, to secrete hormones. Another hormone produced by the anterior pituitary is follicle stimulating hormone. This hormone's function is also easy to remember because from the name we can easily get its function. It's going to stimulate something about the follicles. What this does is stimulates the development of follicles in ovaries. What you should note about follicle stimulating hormone is that in the males it will be called interstitial cell stimulating hormone. It's actually the same hormone, but in males it's given a different name. FSH is also secreted into the blood via the same process. The hypothalamus secretes a special hormone which travels down through a special blood system into the anterior pituitary and then causes the anterior pituitary to secrete follicle stimulating hormone, which causes development of the follicles that are found in the ovaries. Follicles are sac-like structures that are filled with fluid where the immature egg develops from. The next hormone is growth hormone. Growth hormone, like the name suggests, will be affecting growth. It also stimulates the metabolic rate. The hypothalamus will cause a special hormone to flow down through a special blood system to the anterior pituitary. Then the anterior pituitary is going to secrete growth hormone in response to that hormone from the hypothalamus, and in turn, when this growth hormone travels through the blood circulatory system and reaches the body tissues, it's going to stimulate growth. Later in this video, we'll look at the side effects of this growth hormone. Now, let's talk about the last hormone produced by the anterior pituitary gland. Prolactin is a hormone that is essential for stimulation of the production of milk in the mammary glands. So the hypothalamus will cause a certain hormone to travel down through a special blood system into the anterior pituitary. Then when it reaches the anterior pituitary, it causes the secretion of prolactin. When that prolactin travels through the blood circulatory system and reaches the mammary glands, it causes milk to get produced. You have finally reached the bonus tip section. Today we've got 5 tips for you. The first is interstitial cell stimulating hormone. I'm sure if you heard me right, this is the same hormone as follicle stimulating hormone, but in males you should note that it will be called this. It's practically doing the same thing in the males as it was doing in the females. If you remember, it was stimulating the development of the follicles, right? So in males, instead of affecting the ovaries, it will be affecting the testes, and it, instead of developing the follicles, will be helping the testes to function properly. The second tip is about oxytocin and prolactin. These two might be confused, but you should be able to make this close comparison. One is that both of these hormones are going to target the mammary glands. The differences come here. Oxytocin is going to cause milk ejection, while prolactin is going to cause milk production. If you tend to get confused between these two, just remember that it's easy to relate prolactin with production because both have pro in them. One other thing you should note about oxytocin is that it's very important in the sexual behavior of male and females. Sometimes it might be just referred to as pair bonding, which is a mutual attraction between two different genders. Tip 3 is about the effects of high thyroid stimulating hormone. When too much thyroid stimulating hormone is being secreted, it means that there will be a lot of secretion of thyroxine. Now, iodine is very essential for the production of thyroxine. When that person lacks iodine, the body can't make thyroxine. Therefore, what happens is that the thyroid glands or the cells found in the thyroid gland begin to enlarge, and therefore these high levels may cause the formation of a goiter, which is just swollen thyroid glands. In this picture, a goiter has been shown to you. This big structure that develops around the neck is what is being called as a goiter. Tip 4 is about the effects of high growth hormone. High levels, as you can see, cause gigantism. In this picture, we've got a statue of the tallest man who ever lived. His height was due to oversecretion of the hormone growth hormone, and it caused him to be more than average height. This person here you're seeing is a normal person with a regular height. The opposite of gigantism is dwarfism. Then we have another condition that might develop due to high levels of growth hormone, which is known as acromegaly. Acromegaly is different from gigantism in the fact that a person does not become very tall. What happens is that the jaw of a person begins to protrude. As you can see in this picture, this jaw of this man here that's been shown is protruding. One thing that you should never do is try to diagnose yourself. Please leave that for professionals like doctors who can properly know the procedure of diagnosing someone with acromegaly. Another thing that people with acromegaly are found to have is that their fingers are not very normal. They are long and big. As you can see, this is a comparison of two hands. These bigger ones are the hands of a person suffering from acromegaly, and while these smaller ones are the hands of a person who's not suffering from acromegaly. Tip 5 is about the mnemonic for you to remember the hormones that we've looked at in this video. If you want, you can arrange these words into any form. You can say flag top A, however you arrange them. The thing is you being able to remember. The first here we're going to look at is adrenocorticotrophic hormone. F is for follicle stimulating hormone. L is for luteinizing hormone. A for the other hormone which starts with A, which is antidiuretic hormone. G is for growth hormone. T is for thyroid stimulating hormone. O is for oxytocin. And P is for prolactin. Thanks for watching this video till the end. Make sure you watch out for other video that will be about another endocrine gland.